Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, and you are listening to Fearless in Devotion, the absolute worst podcast in all of football history. Go get them, guys.
Here they come, a mighty champions, raise your voices.
Christian, welcome to the latest Fearless in Devotion, sponsored by the Fat Boar. Go eat the Fat Boar; it's brilliant. Also, newsletter. It's I know some people have been saying that the newsletter has gone up to 40. That's because Substack run it via a different company. I don't often know how much it costs, but it's definitely going. It's definitely going back to 15 this week as a preseason bonus. So please think if you want to subscribe there. £15 for new subscribers. Also, I'm joined by two of my most washed out friends. I've got Liam in his new room, and I've got Tim. Where are you, Tim?
I'm in a recording studio in deepest, darkest Chorlton in Manchester.
Chorlton in Manchester. Why are you there?
Yes, because there is a band called Rockin' Robin with a W at the start of each word. So if you're not familiar with them, you might be, you might not be. There's been a lot of tagging into various Instagram posts of players recently. So Dave, he kind of does this band, has been doing some stuff for a few years now. I've managed to convince him to do maybe hopefully some live shows. There is 4 of us in this band, and we are currently recording the new EP.
Okay.
3 tracks today, including one to Joey. We've not even hashed that out yet, so that's going to be on the fly, but hopefully we'll do him proud. So please check out Rockin' Robin WW on all streaming platforms and follow us on Instagram because it's quite enjoyable.
All right. I feel I'm the only one who doesn't have an instrument in the background. I better go and get a tambourine from somewhere.
You can play your octopus. You're fine.
Right. Okay. Let's sort of pile in today. We've got a guest. Neil Roberts is going to join us later to talk about Joey and maybe the new signings. But let's get into it. Liam, simple question: is Parky happy with the preseason? Do you think it's been good preparation for a championship overall?
You could have this debate a million times over in terms of how the Down Under tour went. I think the main consideration for the club is probably, was it a commercial success? Answer, yes. Was it necessarily the best preparation for the players? I wouldn't say so entirely, but he's got the 2 friendlies lined up. One against the Dutch side where none of us are allowed to attend. I'm led to believe that's because of Andy Gilpin's behaviour in the Netherlands in the past, which reflected badly upon all of us. So, yeah, what have you got to say for yourself about that?
Well, fires don't start themselves, Liam.
True. Can't argue with you there. We don't know who the other one is, do we? It's a behind closed doors number.
Yeah, no, we don't know the other one. I mean, I was happy with the Down Under tour. I thought they did it early, which I thought was good to get it, not get it out of the way, but you're not traveling back with like a week to go or anything like that. We've stopped the mistake of the US tour first time around. I would have liked more set up friendlies for when we came back against opposition we knew were going to be a good test before the championship. And I think that's where I'm not particularly bowled over by the end part of it. And Groningen, I think, is a massive shame that there's so many people who want to watch Wrexham but aren't allowed to because of that decision. Tim, it seems a bit of a rush decision, like they didn't quite know who to play or where to play them.
Yeah, I mean, if this was something that had been planned a while back, it would have been well known of a while back, and I just find it a bit strange. I mean, there have been a few other things that have sprung up. I think Blackburn Rovers were playing somewhere in not a million miles away from there as well, and again the same information from the local authorities was relayed, as in no fans should travel. You won't be allowed in. There's going to be Wrexham fans going. Some will get in. That's the risk you take. It's frustrating purely because, it's a classic case, isn't it? We want to see this team more than ever. We've had all these shiny new toys come in this past week, 3 in a week. We want to see them firsthand, up close and personal. And the first chance that, albeit the fortunate 9,000 people are going to be in the ground, the first chance we get is going to be, against West Brom in 3 weeks' time. For those who don't get tickets at Southampton, so there is a shared element of frustration, and I think it just would have been nice because we don't get many European adventures in that sense. There was a couple of Portugal trips under Keats, which was great fun, and we would have easily taken 1,000 even at this short notice to Holland for that, and it is a shame. But look, the local authorities have their reasons, whatever reasons they are, have not come to light. We can.
I think it's the ground. It's the ground they're playing in.
Probably is, yeah.
Yeah, they're not playing the main. They're not playing the main Groningen Stadium. They're doing like a training thing. It's unsegregated, which is absolutely fine if we were going to go over there like English football hooligans and kick off. But we're not.
It's like us saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to do a preseason friendly against PSV at the Rock." It's not quite. You can probably understand why people are a little bit hesitant, but it's frustrating. It's one of those things. We get on with it, and hopefully next season there'll be some staple home friendlies. It'd be nice. It would be great to sort of do Liverpool as a kind of a Joey tribute thing. Something that we were quite accustomed to back in the day. We used to have friendlies against Liverpool fairly regularly.
When we needed them, mate. You remember?
Yeah, exactly.
They used to be our highest attended game, and they used to set us up for us. And it was also the Rick Parry link, wasn't it? Rick Parry's lad was at our academy, so he did help us out a bit there. We needed them back then. Look, all I would say about Holland is it was a nice halfway house because there's certain people like Andy M and Pete Jones who will go to every Wrexham game, but not all of us can fly halfway across the world. So to do Holland, which was an hour and a half's flight, was a nice happy medium, and I know a lot of people were really looking forward to it. So it's a shame we couldn't get that happened. I mean, behind closed doors friendly, I don't think is perfect. We don't even, as I say, we don't even know who against. It could be two separate sides, Wrexham sides against each other. I mean, I would have wanted a little bit more than that because I don't actually know the quality of the opposition we faced in Down Under. It seemed quite sketchy, and some of it was made up of youth players. And like they won the match I didn't think they'd win, and they lost them, and they lost and drew where I didn't. It just seemed a bit uneven. But look, I understand why they did it, and it was a great shot in the arm for Wrexham fans down there to be able to get to see them. Right, new signings. What do we know? What do we make of them? I suppose the biggest one is Lewis O'Brien. I would say that we've broken our transfer record for that. I know we sort of trailed it on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, but it's hard to know where we are because I know we also mentioned Owen Beck, who's now gone to Derby. I wonder if Beck didn't join because Kakache became available on a permanent, and I think Phil Parkinson always likes to buy people permanently rather than loan them in. And I think once Kakache had picked us, I think the Beck deal probably died a death. But O'Brien came back on the radar. Forest fans love him. They think he's a very good player for them, who probably didn't either get a firecracker of the whip in the Premier League, or maybe just that level's a little bit too much for him. It's a sort of key thing, isn't it? You have to let him play 10 games in the Premier League to see where you are, and you're just not going to have that with the big squads. Liam, what do you know about him? I know you've been writing about it this week.
Yeah, on the face of it, it looks like a very good deal for Wrexham. As we've seen, all the Swansea fans are crying that they didn't get him.
We'll come on to that later.
Yeah, a bit of bitterness there. We'll come on to that. But in terms of the calibre of the signing, Nottingham Forest fans, as you say, nothing but good things to say about him. And then you look to see, he might not have made the most appearances there. But I think in one of his first games against West Ham, he got a man of the match. Drawn comparisons from previous teammates to Jack Wilshere. Yeah, so I think Parky has been chipping away at this for quite some time because we've had the whole saga. I think it was the news that we were interested in him came fairly early in the summer. Then it's been a will he, won't he? type of scenario. I think the only barrier really was agreeing personal terms, and
Yeah, it was interesting. So I think we probably bid 5 million for him and then couldn't agree the terms. Now, obviously, Forest have a large squad and a large wage bill. They were obviously keen to get him off that. So I think we're right in thinking that we paid maybe a little bit less, and whatever less we paid, we put into his wages. So he'll be by far probably our best earning player. It's interesting that we were so desperate to get him, and we've had to restructure the deal a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I think Alan Nixon reported about us reducing the bid. I've heard mixed things over whether that actually happened or whether it was just us going back. I think the fee is reported to be somewhere between 4 and 5 million, so it's a club record fee that we've splashed out there by quite some quite some length. I think the initial fee for Kakache is reported to be around just over 2 million, rising up to potentially 4 million, but we've paid that full whack up front for O'Brien. So that gives you an indication of how much we rate him. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm struggling to get my head around the fact that Wrexham have forked out fees of this amount. I was working it out, and I think if you calculate the full amount of the Kakache deal, then we're looking at up to nearly 10 million spent so far. In terms of the amount committed by the club to spend
Yeah.
on
How much
players.
is Hardy? Because there's been conflicting reports there. Do you think it was about 800?
Yeah, that was about because there was a clause in his contract where basically if they got relegated, he could go for a lower amount. And I don't think he had long left on his contract either. So I don't think Plymouth were exactly in the best bargaining position for Hardy. Then obviously we've got Windass and
Yeah.
Windass, who we'll move on to in a minute, and Ward on free transfers, which that's pretty good business actually, and especially Windass for free transfer. So you balance that out a bit when you talk about big fees. We're still working on free transfers as well.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to pass the sort of catch that net wide. Tim, Windass, what do you know? Where do you think he'll play? And do you think we've got a pretty good deal on a free transfer?
Well, considering he was supposedly rated at 10 million inside the last 12 months, you'd have to say that is a bargain getting him on a free, considering he was in demand. He's knocked in a fair few goals last season, chipped in with a fair few assists. For me, let's be truly honest about it. He probably comes in at the expense of Elliot Lee straight off the bat. And again, that's not being disrespectful to Elliot Lee in any way. We're in this position now where we've flown higher than we'd imagined we would, and the upgrades were just necessary. I thought about this a lot this week. We've had fairly gentle facelifts, I think, for want of a better phrase, over the last 3 years. Just here and there, little sort of alterations. Whereas this one, especially this week, 3 in a week, this feels like major surgery. Like,
Yeah.
this is what you really need now. You can't be gentle and just go, we're going to make a few tweaks here and there. If we do that, Parky and all have looked at it and gone, yeah, okay, we're way ahead where we should have been, but is this squad where it needs to be? No. So
No.
that's why we've gone out and bought Windass. He is a shithouse of epic proportions by all accounts. There was a sort of argument whether he would have passed the dickhead test, Parky's patented dickhead test. He has, it would seem. I like him. I've looked at various interviews. He's got his own YouTube channel as well. I think he's done a few little bits on there.
You see that there was a little bit where he was having a go. Well, not having a go, but
no, bad Palmer.
about Palmer.
Yeah,
Palmer
I think that was a few years back. But that was tongue in cheek, wasn't it? I think he just said that Palmer said he was going to get X amount of goals if he was at a certain level, blah blah blah. But
yeah,
that will have been laughed at, I'm sure, in training this week. And I think it represents a good opportunity for him because, let's face it, we all feel a little bit sorry for Sheffield Wednesday. And I dare say when they come to town, if there's any sort of peaceful protest planned, I dare say some of our fans would happily get involved in that, because we all know what having rogue ownership is like. So we've picked the bones out of their carcass a little bit, but I think Windass is going to be tremendous. I genuinely do. I think he's going to be a shoot on sight kind of player. He is going to be another leader and a captain on that pitch. where you need that dark arts in play in the Championship, and I think he's going to be adept at it. And I think it probably takes a little bit more pressure off McLean in that sense. In that
there's two lightning rods.
Yeah, well, there is, and I just think he's that kind of a firebrand Jay Harris type that maybe we've lacked in midfield over the last few years. So we've got some nice players now, Lee and Dobson, but I think with Windass you're going to get the ability and that spark to piss opposition players off, and I'm all for it.
We've been joined by Neil Roberts, two-time Wrexham player, Wales international, and owner of the best bar in Wrexham. How are you, Neil?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for the intro.
Right, what do you know about these new signings?
Not too much, to be honest, which I think is quite a nice thing. I'm excited to see what they bring to the table. Just listening to you guys there, a little snippet that I caught. Then I think Windass is probably the one that, for me, that jumps out as being, like you've said there, maybe McLean-esque sort of type of player. And I think, I think he'll be the one that probably, for me, I'm most excited to sort of see him in action.
Yeah, and there's another one as well, George Thomason, who who I'll admit I don't know much about. He signed from Bolton, their club captain. Bolton fans say that he's a proper committed player who can play a little bit, and I think he's there for depth, to be honest, Neil. I think he's a starter.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, to be fair. And we actually had a couple of Bolton fans in last week randomly. They come on holiday to Wrexham for a couple of days.
Wow.
So it's so I asked them about
what a weird thing to hear. That's such a bizarre thing, isn't it?
I know, they were on their way. So I think Wrexham was sort of on their list, if you like, to tick off. Let's say they've been. So
first destination.
Thursday night in Wrexham. So I asked them about Thomason, and they were again similar to what you just said. They were very sort of complimentary about him, and you don't tend to sort of get many sort of club captains that will sort of up sticks and leave their club if they're in that position, sort of thing. So I think that's a decent signing, but again will be a squad player sort of thing, similar to a Dobson, I would probably say.
Yeah, similar to a Dobson. We got James as well. There's still talk that he might still be in for a defensive midfielder. So we've got Neil on, and we're going to talk about Joey, but we'll just sort of quickly go through possible incomings. Now, there's been one mentioned this morning from Alan Nixon, Juan Carlos Portillo, who's a Colombian hard man. Now, someone pointed out under his tweet that he actually signed for River Plate 2 days ago, so maybe that one's dead in the water. But two interesting things: one, we're still looking for a defensive midfielder, and two, that net is getting cast far and wide, isn't it? I mean, South American players, Kakache came in and took everyone by surprise.
Yeah. I mean, well, again, listen, we have had players from far off sort of regions before, the likes of, look at Carlos Edwards, you know what I mean? It's it has happened, Hector Sam and Dennis, so Silvio Span in later years, but
Josh Johnson, do you remember him?
Josh, yeah, absolutely lightning quick winger.
So not with the ball though.
But I'm glad you said that. But no, but I think that's that's the good thing. That's what obviously now the direction that the club is able to go in. Not that we haven't done it before, but now it's being done with a bit more guile, if you like, in the respect of as much as you have finance to spend and utilize, it's got to be done in the right way, and I'm sure there'll be in networks now that take us. We've got the other new signing that's come in from I think his parents New Zealand, or
so his parents are Italian, but he was born in Wellington. His name's Kakache. I wanted to ask you about that because when you used to work for City and Swansea, there was a lot of foreign players coming in. How do you set up a player like that? What do you sort of need to do to make sure that they're comfortable in a new environment?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very much about the person and not the player to begin with, because I think the homework will have been done for maybe 6 to 12 months on the player himself. What you have to ensure is that when they do come in, you know, depending on their age and things, have they got families coming with them? Where are you going to, first of all, where they're going to live? Have you got everything in order around them in terms of their healthcare and sort of things like that? If they've got young children, it's just really, really important that we as fans as well give them time, because it's such a huge sort of not just the football now, but just a step in terms of their lives as well, coming to a new country and just settling in and becoming happy off the pitch, happy on it. That was always sort of such a big thing, you know, even for us moving. You know, I moved across to Manchester, and that was a big thing from coming from Wrexham, sort of thing. So I think there'll be, well, I know there are people in place at the club now that look after the sort of general day-to-day welfare and care of all the players. So really important, you know, driving licenses, things like that, and making sure they're all insured, and you know, it goes on and on the list, sort of. It does stretch, sort of thing. But the nice thing is that the club is starting to recruit people in positions to look after all those things, and
not just Geraint.
Right. Poor old Geraint. He can't do everything, can he? So, you know, you've got some great people there on the staff as well that have sort of been around the block a bit. You know, the likes of Steve and obviously Phil, the manager, but more so his sort of his assistants and things. They'll all support in that area as well. And you've got like you and the kit man, Chal, the groundsman. They all dip in, and it becomes that sort of family unit, which is what Phil is really, really big on.
So we got a special coming in the week where we talked to Antonio Cacace, who is Liberato's dad, and there's some good bits there about him as a man. Tim, I want to talk about the other sort of big sort of transfer rumor this week, Kieffer Moore. Now, if you listen to if you sort of look at social media, he came in a big Cadillac or a blacked out van, failed a
chauffeur-driven limousine, wasn't it?
Yeah, failed a medical and buggered off. Is that true? Do you think the deal's dead?
Apparently not, depending on who you speak to, and the ones that I speak to I tend to trust. So there was initial rumours that he had failed a medical. Then it turns out he was just here for talks, just kind of like, you know, trying to feel each other out. Is he going to be the right fit for us? Blah, blah, blah. And then it would seem that it's certainly very much alive, because the new Sheffield United boss, I can't remember his name now, but that many managers, he was asked.
Ruben Sellers, is it?
Ruben Sellers, yeah. So after
their
their recent preseason match, he was asked directly, you know, what's happening with Kieffer, because he wasn't in the squad, he wasn't training, and he kind of skirted around the question. So that would suggest that there's definitely something on the table, or at least close to it. So it wouldn't surprise me. It's very much a Parky signing, big man, target man, you know, something to sort of aim and pick up the scraps from. So great in the air. I've been seeing him for Wales many times. Brilliant in the air, fantastic. So it'll be very interesting if that comes to pass. And I'm all for more Welsh internationals in the Wrexham squad. You know, I remember when Neil was part of the setup, and you know, it kind of feels like that's part of like a dying era. That's from way back when, you know, the likes of Neil and Steve Roberts and Mark Jones. You know, we had that sort of cluster of players, and it was such an element. So, such an element of pride back then, and then it's completely dropped off. You know, so it'd be great to have that back and have some seasoned internationals back in the setup, and obviously try and bring some through for the future. But yeah, the Kieffer Moore deal as it stands appears to be still in the offing. So let's see what conversation we're having this time next week.
I would say that they've made 5 signings, I think, now.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably try and bring in at least another 3, and I think they'll probably look for a centre mid, maybe a defensive centre mid, a centre back, and a striker. And I think Moore would be a good option there because he's better on the floor than people give him credit for, and he can hold the ball up and really bring people on. Just before we start talking about Joey, Liam, there's been a rumor knocking about Max Cleworth interesting Aston Villa with a bid on the table. I don't know how true that is. Have you heard that? What sort of fee would you want for Max, or is it a straight get away from our Cleworth?
That one's pretty much in its infancy. That rumor, I've heard it a couple of places, but not from anyone I could really declare as like a solid source or anything like that. Reports varying between 7 and 12 million, which I think 12 seems a bit steep. 7 maybe closer to the mark with add-ons.
Liam, what's the point? You've just signed Lewis O'Brien for 5 million. It's not like you need that money. So why would you let Max go for 7 million?
The only reason I can think of, and actually I think we've got more wiggle room in terms of the financial rules than people give us credit for, because you can stand to lose. I think it works out roughly about 29 million per season, roughly on average. But with our revenues, that actually gives us massive amount of wiggle room. So the one reason why you might do is to realise a return on a player, and obviously Max is one that has been brought up through the youth ranks, so we haven't had to pay for him, so it'd be a decent return. But as far as Wrexham's future goes, I think most Wrexham fans will tell you that Max is a player that potentially could follow us all the way, up through the divisions, which would be remarkable if it did happen. But I think we all truly believe in him, that he's got that potential. So I'm not too sure how much truth there is in that one. I hope personally that he stays and plays for us for as long as possible, naturally.
Tell you what, we'll sell him 15 million and a 2-season loan. That's fine.
Yeah. I was going to say, if that was to remotely happen, it would be a case of, right, I'm going to join one of the big boys, but loan me back to my club, because he knows full well, as good as Max is, he's not going to be chucked straight into the first team at Villa, is he? Not a chance. Let's be perfectly honest about it. So it would be nice not to see it happen, because we've still not experienced that yet, where a player has impressed so much in the Wrexham team that they've been headhunted by a bigger club. It hasn't happened.
No, most of our players, when we get released, they go to lesser clubs, to be honest, because we've had our use out of them.
Yeah, 100%. Or people have moved on because it just hasn't quite worked out for them in the way they would have wanted. So, but let's be honest, if Max was to go now or in future to a bigger club, he would go with our best wishes because of what he's achieved. So,
yeah.
But let's not entertain that. I'm going to go with Andy's hashtag keep away from our Cleworth, or whatever it was you said.
Right. Let's talk about Joey. It's been a few days since the news. I mean, I think we knew it was coming, but it's still hard to take because he's such a absolute stone cold legend. And I know we did a tribute podcast to him in the week, but it was always nice to get someone who knew him really well, and that's why we've asked Neil to come on. I mean, Neil, what was your sort of first meeting with a great man as a youngster coming through at Wrexham?
Well, I was fortunate, really, is that I grew up same age as his son, Darren. So myself and Darren often played against each other, opposing teams, through the Wrexham and District Youth League. So Joey was somebody that I probably came across, albeit through mum and dad, when I was sort of 8 or 9, standing on the touchline watching games. And as we all know, Joey was the Mr. Wrexham, and he was then, and he was right up until the very end. He would talk to everyone. He would have time for everyone, and he always remembered people. And that was the beautiful sort of thing about him. It was, from those early moments in my sort of footballing journey, he was always around, really, and that was sort of really, really, looking back now, I was so lucky because, through my journey with Wrexham, he coached me, he managed me, and he was, you know, a father figure really. So yeah, it's been a really emotional and tough week.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Did you ever play against him, even in training or something like that? What was he like? Was he? I mean, was he 100% in training, or was he trying to sort of teach you a few things, or did he go
No,
easy on you?
yeah, he was. Well, he would never go easy. So every training session was your last training session, was Joey's motto. It was very much sort of, you know, you train as you play, and that was very much him. He was full throttle, but again, that was sort of everything he did. If he went in the gym, there would be no half measures. If you're going to be in the gym, you're there to work, sort of thing. And as much as, you know, he liked a laugh and a joke, the one on a serious note with Joey is that everything was done as if it was your last thing that you did. So you know, he instilled that into, you know, quite a lot of people that maybe turned up with the wrong attitude, and they quickly knew that, okay, yeah, if I'm in Joey's company, if I'm against him, I've got to be ready for the tackle or whatever was coming. Or if I'm on his team, I've got to work hard. And that was sort of fundamentals, really, to what I grew up with as a sort of young aspiring footballer.
Yeah, it's clear what I think it's become clear this week just what Joey meant to so many different fans of, you know, so many different teams. I've seen tributes from, you know, sort of Chelsea fans,
Yeah,
lots from you know, Liverpool fans.
yeah.
What would you say is the, you know, the biggest thing you picked up from him? You mentioned there, you know, like playing, you know, as if it's your last, that type of thing. What was the sort of the main lessons you learned from him as a youngster?
Well, again, it's funny you say that, because I'm on a couple of WhatsApp groups with ex clubs and things like that he never played at. But the one thing this week that's dominated the chats has been Joey. So, you know, Wigan as an example, you know, you Roberto Martinez's and Paul Jules and people like this that I'm on a group with, that, you know, they hold him in such high esteem, and forget the football. It's all about the person. The first thing they say is, "What a guy," you know. So I just wanted to sort of mention that. But in terms of what I learned from Joey was very much about sort of the fundamentals, like I mentioned earlier, is that work ethic, you know, the sort of never say die attitude, and, you know, in many ways. And if you look at some of his interviews, which obviously we all have this week, there's been some amazing stuff that's been put out there. But he talks about his sort of, maybe his own sort of belief in himself, and his sort of confidence in his ability, that he didn't have a lot of it. But you know what a quality player he was. He was such a quality player, and he never ever gave himself credit for that. And I think I had a little bit of that in me, that I would never really sort of say I was one of the, you know, a technical player, but what I did have was sort of the things that he instilled in me. Obviously, you know, my parents and that were a massive influence on me, but Joey is the standout person that made me sort of who I was as a footballer, and that, you know, that's something really really special, because I think without those sort of fundamentals, then I definitely wouldn't have had the career that I had. So
Yeah, the confidence one's a fascinating thing, really, because it's quite often the people that you would least expect as well when you know you looked at Joey and he just come and speak to anyone. He was quite fond of a prank, wasn't he, as well? Have you got any that spring to mind? Andy was talking about how a few that he did on the phone with him.
yeah, no, he loved. Yeah, that was the special thing about him. He was so like, yeah, you know, he was the joker in the changing room, but then he could turn and he would be the serious one. And, you know, it's in terms of my stories about Joey, and, you know, being in the bar now that I'm running, is honestly, there's so many people that I would never have thought they'd have known him, but they actually did, and it's whether they're walking the dog, whether his humility is the biggest thing that for me that stands out, because everybody seems to have a story, and I've been told loads this week about him that I didn't know, and I'm sure we'll have many more of those to come. But I was getting released, and it was, I think it was after I'd done, or in the middle of doing my first year pro with Wrexham. It was really, really tough. I don't know if you remember the year, but we had so many signings that we were bringing in, centre forwards, the likes of, Steve Morris was there, Steve Watkin was there, Benno was still there. Then we had, I think it was the year we brought in Ian Stevens, David Lowe. You had Carl Conley playing up front, Ian Rush then was coming in. And it was kind of like, oh, and there's still a few young pros that are in front of me as well, the likes of Johnny Cross and people like that I was still behind. And Joey got hold of me and made it clear that he was putting his neck on the line for me. So he took me for the whole summer, and we spent sort of more or less every day together, because he never had a break. He never went on holiday. It was always just constant, who can I train with sort of thing. And I remember he took me with, I don't know if you know, Mal Purchase, who was on the staff. And so Mally was a close friend of mine, and they took me to Erddig, and there's a hill in Erddig which takes you down to the little car park as you go past the Squire York, and got to the bottom. We'd run there. We got to the bottom, and he was like, "Right, okay." Turned round, and he jumped on me back. He said, "Right, back up the hill." So that was my training for the next 6 weeks. Was very much sort of like Rocky, a Rocky movie, and there's people driving past the cars looking at Joey on my back, and it was like, oh my good God. But you know what, it just kind of gave me that real sort of tough lesson that you're not going to get anything or anywhere unless you work hard. And my memories of him always sort of go back to that moment, because he put everything he had into other people. So it was really, really special. That I've got lots of other memories, and I did find a video on my phone the other day. I've got 10 minutes of footage with Joey and Mickey coming into the bar the day we opened, when nobody else was in, just myself and my two business partners. And thankfully, I'm so glad I did it. I got someone to video it. So we've got some amazing footage and some hilarious footage, which at some point I'll share. And, when the time's right, to just do a little montage for the great man.
Neil, that intervention that you mentioned, the whole Rocky montage, the fact that Joey said, "Right, I'm basically going to be your personal trainer for this summer."
Yeah.
Do you think having that intervention has probably spurred you on into having the career that you had? Because when you're learning lessons like that from somebody who's been there and done it, and is kind of like taking you under his wing and saying, "Right, if you want it bad enough, this is what you're going to do," and then lo and behold, you went on to have a very good career.
Yeah, and I think probably, I think the big thing with Joe and myself and our relationship is that he probably saw something in me that maybe he could align to as well. And I think, without a shadow of a doubt, I would not only have been the player that I was, but also like the person. And those life lessons that I got from Joe were all about be a decent person, and especially with young kids. So the young lads coming through that I could then give a bit back to. It was like, that was always really, really important for me, that anybody that I ever had as a young sort of boot boy, if you like, which those days have gone, sadly, but I'd always make sure they were all right. I'm still in touch with them now, and it's like that was a fundamental thing piece of advice that he gave me. You know, he was lucky to have it, and you know, we did a really special evening for Joey last year for at the end of August, which he didn't know was for him. We kept it very much an evening with Graham Souness, but the guise was that we were trying to support Joey and get all his loved ones around him, and what a turnout it was. It was amazing. And Graham, you know, somebody like Graham Souness, who was like, "Oh no, there's no fee. I'm doing it for Joey." And then John Aldridge turns up, Sammy Lee turns up, obviously Mickey, Alan Kennedy, you know, all these sort of phenomenal players, past and present, and you know, that shows you the level that he was held in. And you know, I've seen some nice tributes this week from, you know, Kenny Dalglish and Jamie Carragher, and you know, a few of the Chelsea boys as well, the old boys. And you know, that it just, you know, all the time we kind of repeat ourselves, but he was and will always be sort of that Mr. Wrexham, if you like. And I don't think there's anybody, especially in the eras that I've watched from the 80s through to present day, you know, I put a card down there and just said, like, it's with the flowers, and just said, if there was a word that we could retire, then it should be legend. In Joey's respect, because it's used too often, isn't it? You know, we all kind of mention this, and I've seen since that the club are thinking of, or they're going to do a statue, which is brilliant. It's amazing. I would love to see the stand named after him. You know, it's I just think, you know, we need to do something that, you know, I know the statue will be there forever, but I'd like to see something more, if you like. And what that is, I don't know. But he should have, if anybody was ever in kind of in a position where they should have been given an MBE, or, you know, then that man, how he wasn't nominated, it baffles me, sort of thing. So.
Well, I mean, that answers one of my other questions in terms of honouring him, in terms of a permanence aspect. Obviously, you mentioned the statue. I'm sure the club will take on suggestions and everything in terms of going forward, whether it's the stand, whether it's a training ground, whatever that may be. Is there anything, Neil, that you can tell us about Joey that we might not necessarily have known? Like, was he superstitious? Did he have great or poor taste in music? Because you hear all these great stories about him being
Can Joey sing? Could Joey sing?
Can Joey sing? And has he got anything unusual that, well, not unusual, but anything that you wouldn't necessarily associate with him that you think, nobody would have known that about him?
Stamp collecting. He liked to stamp.
A love of cream cakes.
Cream cakes.
Joey would never. Joey would never have lunch at the training ground, right? So. You'd notice he'd nip off in his car down to Eccleston's. He just, I don't know, he was different, wasn't he? He was like, you know, he would do that. He would wear, not on purpose, but he'd end up in odd socks and things like that. He was quite random, I think, probably in the nicest possible way. He didn't care about whether his kit was right. It would be sort of, there was just something unique about him. I'm trying to think of things that you might not know, but just, you know, I think just quite. He liked going home and just sat with his wife. He liked a glass of wine, so he loved a glass of wine. So he would do that most nights with Janice. Loved a dinner on a Sunday. Just all the, like, basic things. There's nothing really that I could say to you, or you'll never guess what he did. Like, you know, it was very much an ordinary lifestyle, but a beautiful one. Massively loved his grandchildren. They were a massive part of his life when they came into his life, and you know, I know it's been incredibly tough for them. So family man. You know, I don't think there's anything really that you don't know, because I think everybody's spoken about it.
He's very transparent in that respect. Is that what you see is what you get?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he used to pick the VHS, the videos that we'd watch on the bus and things like that. So
Was he a big action movie fan?
no, comedy,
Rom-com?
obviously.
Comedies.
Comedy. It would be funny farm. There was somebody. I think they've still got one of his videos that he did ask me to ask him to get it back for him, as if VHS is still a thing. But Gary Worthington. It was Gary Worthington had borrowed one of his videos, and when I went to Man City, he said, "Oh, if you see Gary, can you ask him for the VHS back?" And I think it was something like, Chevy Chase movie or something. So,
oh man,
yeah, just comical, right? Right until the very end, and he bless him. He still had his humor. He still had his humor even in hospital last week. It was when I went to see him, and he was still, to a point, cracking gags, and it was nice to think that he could still do that at that moment, sort of thing.
That's the fighter, isn't it? That's Joey Jones, the fighter, to the very end.
Absolutely.
I'm sure. In terms of the funeral arrangements, everything else, everybody's kind of agreed that it's going to be like nothing Wrexham's ever seen before. It's going to be throngs of people in the streets, and
I think it'll be something, like you say, that Wrexham hasn't seen before, and having spoken to all my close friends and things, that everybody's saying, we take a day off that day, wherever it is that we do, and we get together and reminisce.
Yeah,
you got flowers running the entire length of the Mill Road stand now. One end to the other. So many nice messages and stuff, and it's gonna be raw for a while, isn't it? It's blatantly obvious for you, Neil, and as was the case for quite a few of us earlier this week.
It's a measure of the man that he sort of stopped. And it did. I think time stopped a little bit, didn't it, during the week when everybody got the news, and he's bizarrely, or not bizarrely, really, is that I was going into a boxing class at 6 a.m. when I got the news, and I did think about turning around and going and coming out, but then it was like, no.
He'd have wanted you to box. You love boxing.
Well, he was massive. He got me into boxing, so it was, it was really sort of fitting, I guess, that you find out in that moment. So,
I just want to say one thing, that he just transcended, not just Wrexham, not just football. So I was walking the day after. I was walking down the office, and the chief reporter of the Mirror got up, shook my hand, and went, "Joey," and I went, "Oh, I didn't know Joey," and he told us a story that in 1983, he wrote Chelsea a letter saying, could he interview Joey Jones, because he wanted to talk about hooliganism for his school project, not ever thinking that he would ever get anything back.
Yeah.
He got a letter back from Joey saying, meet me at this point. We'll go to a hotel. I'll buy you dinner. We'll talk about anything you want. He said he was there for 6 hours. He said that Joey was just so, for a young lad, just so free with his time and his stories and anecdotes. And he said since then he's been my favorite player, just for how he was, and for someone I didn't even think knew him to be so touched by Joey as well. I think that's something, the measure of the man.
Do you know what? There's a couple of things that just sprung to mind now, and there'll probably be more and more. But Joey and Mickey went to George Michael's album launch on the King's Road. Unbelievable. He just threw it in conversation with us, and he was like, "Mickey, tell him we did, didn't we?" And they'd gone out for a night before a game as well, and they ended up in George Michael's party. Unbelievable, on the King's Road. And when he told us that, I was just like, oh my God, that's probably the most amazing thing I've ever heard, sort of thing. And he knew them and was a big sort of fan of theirs. And then the other one is Joey got asked if he would do a presentation for, I think it was, I want to say it was Johnstown or one of the local clubs under 10s. He agreed to do it. Instead of turning up on his own, he brought 3 of the Chelsea boys to come and do it. So Eddie Needs-Weekey came. I think it might have been Kerry Dixon and another one. Just unannounced, just said, "Oh, I thought you might like it if they came," and made them come up from London.
Wow. What
amazing, right?
Absolutely.
Man of the people right there.
Yeah.
Man of the people.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about this before in the week. People say he's a football icon. I don't think you need to have the word football in it. I think you just put it, he's an icon because of what Andy said, it transcends football. It's not just about being a football, it's about being a human being.
Yeah.
And an extremely good one at that. And like I said, if we can all be a bit like Joey in life, we'll all be fine.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a very fitting sort of statement, to be fair, and one that I sort of fully endorse. And love the man, miss the man.
Right, while we've got you on, Lewis O'Brien signed for us this week.
Yeah,
from under the noses of Swansea, which has led to a massive head loss on social media from Swansea fans saying, "How dare we're upstart club." Now you work for Swansea.
Yeah,
I don't really want to put you on the spot, but
you're going to.
I'm going to. Absolutely.
This is our response. Love that tweet.
Who's the bigger club, Neil?
Oh well, again, you have put me on the spot here, but
I know I have.
Yeah, I think we just have to embrace the fact that we're in the same league as them for one again, because that's a brilliant thing. Swansea are a massive club. They are. Let's make no bones about it. Not as big as Cardiff, I'll say that much, but we're slowly sort of, I think, on our way to getting closer to Swansea. Cardiff will always be the biggest club in Wales at the moment in terms of fan base and things like that. They're huge, but we are, we're starting to kind of find our way, aren't we? And I think when we and I think we will do this when we establish ourselves as a championship club year on year, and potentially fight for those playoffs, which I think we will do. We're going to be very much back on the map, sort of thing. And I know we've achieved so much in a few years, but Swansea have still been up there and been in the Premier League. So we in recent years, so we have to sort of, I think, tip our hat a little bit to them and just embrace the fact that we're in the same league as them, and we're going to go head to head. They're a very good club. They're a very well run club, I think, and I think that's just gonna add to the excitement for when we play them. So I think we're kind of neck and neck with Swansea, I would say.
Very diplomatic, Neil. Very.
You can take the boy out the media training, but you can't take the media training out of the boy.
All right,
there we are.
Quick straw poll, Tim. Which Welsh club do you hate the most?
Newport.
Yeah. Liam.
Swansea.
Neil, I can't ask you, can I? I don't hate any of them. This is the thing. Why would I? I don't. I haven't got that. I haven't got that in me to hate. You know, if you ask me about our neighbours over the road, then yeah, then I would say them. But I love the fact that we're going to be playing Swansea. I'm so excited for the reigniting the Welsh derbies again. It's I didn't really see Newport as a big game. I'll be honest.
No.
But you know what?
I've only said that because of recent years.
I'm like Tim. I hate Newport because I've never had a good day there. It's a horrible place. The ground's freezing. I can remember that playoff defeat is still singed into my retinas.
That's over now.
And to be fair, their fan base is truly horrible. Like a Welsh version of Millwall, but much sparser.
Right.
But yeah, it's great, isn't it? And people saying, trying to force a rivalry with Swansea. Don't need to force a rivalry. It's there. As Neil's just said, it's a Welsh derby. You want those bragging rights. And they're going to be up on the 20th of December.
Right. Okay. I want to end on this. Now, take it to one side that we might be making more signings. If we started, if the Southampton game was tomorrow, what's your side? Tim, goalkeeper, who are you going for?
Danny Ward.
Oh, wow. Liam?
Big Arthur.
Neil?
I'd start with Arthur.
Yeah, I start with Arthur as well. So I think Arthur starts.
But I think Danny will come into the team fairly early.
Okay.
I'm only based that on the fact that I just think there's going to be some sort of full circle moment similar to what Danny did at the Euros. And I don't know, just something's just telling me he's going to start. I don't know why. Obviously, I love Arthur, but that's just the way I'm feeling it.
All right. Right wing back, I'm going to go, I think Ryan Longman starts. I think he's a shoe-in to start the season. Any disagreements there? No. Right centre back, again, I think we're all going to go for Max there.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Liam, I'll come to you on this one. So if we don't sign a new centre half, who starts in the middle for you?
Oh, that's such a tough one because I think O'Connell has been sort of your consistent man there, but I've just got worries about him getting. He had a couple of occasions last season, albeit not loads, but there were a couple of occasions where he got done. I'm going to say Danskar, just because of if he carries on the momentum he had at the very end, and we are talking the very end of last season. Yeah.
I don't know. I think he might go for O'Connell because he's just a little bit better on the ball, and I think you do need to retain possession in the Championship. Neil?
I'm going to throw Evans in.
George Evans?
Ooh.
I think he might. Yeah, I think he might fancy that ball playing centre half. And George had a lot of experience playing there for Derby, I remember, and
Millwall as well. So my Millwall supporting mate said that he wanted to play defensive mid, but Evans was much, much better as a centre half.
Yeah. If you're talking about ball playing centre halves, there's nobody better in our squad than him.
Interesting. He's got the right size. Are we all going for Brunt on the left, or any O'Connor fans?
No, I think Brunt at this level, I think O'Connor's served us very well through the divisions. But Brunt for that role as it stands,
and his athleticism, I think, he's a machine.
He is. Right, is interesting. This is the most interesting one so far. Kakache or McLean?
Do you want to go for this one first, Andy?
I think Kakache plays. I think you don't.
Of course you do.
You don't spend that money on a Serie A player and then don't start him straight away. I think Kakache plays. But as I said last week, I still think there's a place in the squad for McLean because he can play a number of positions and he will be good coming off the bench. Tim?
I think he'll keep this disruption to a minimum. I think he'll keep the spine, so I think he'll still start with McLean, but we'll see a lot more Kakache in terms of, he will come and displace him, but I think he will start with McLean because I'm almost certain he's still going to be given the captaincy.
All right, Liam?
Same line of thinking as Tim. Parky sometimes takes a bit of time to bed in new players. So for that reason, I expect McLean.
Okay, Neil?
Kakache, because of what they've spent, and McLean to be a Fletcher player for us.
Yeah, the 20-minuter. Okay, interesting again, midfield. I mean, unless they sign a new defensive mid, I think Matty James starts, doesn't he? Any?
He's the only one we've got who can play the Matty James role. So
okay, well, if the role's named after him, I think we have to play him. But right hand side, obviously no Rathbone. Liam, who are you going for? So there's Dobson, Thomason.
Probably Dobbo. I mean, let's be honest. If Rathbone was there, shoo-in, we wouldn't even be talking about this. I think just for his his physicality, tough in the tackle, and the fact I don't know a great deal about Thomason, go with Dobbo.
All right. This is an interesting one. Neil, I'll come to you first. Are you looking at Windass as an attacking mid, or are you looking at him off the front man? And if he's attacking mid, is he got the sort of left-hand side creative Elliot Lee role?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he's maybe some will say, that Elliot's been brilliant in terms of what he's done for us, I think. But I do think it's that sort of natural sort of replacement for him with the experience of that level.
Okay. Anyone disagree with that? Anyone think that Windass might play a bit further forward? No? Okay. Up front, Tim, do you want to pick your front two?
I think it's going to have to be Smith if he's fit, and Hardy.
Smith and Hardy. So you're not going Bickerstaff and Palmer?
I'm definitely not going Bickerstaff and Palmer because neither of them will be at the club by the time Southampton comes around.
Liam, any?
No arguments against that. I mean, I will say that I wouldn't be surprised if Windass was maybe played a bit further up, where in a similar place to where they played Rodriguez at the end of last season, just in behind the main striker. So actually, I could see that possibly happening. I also don't know if he's very left-sided, Windass. I think he's a right footer, isn't he? So
okay,
yeah.
So is Lee, really, but yeah. If Windass did go further forward, who would you have in midfield? Would you back it up with a Thomason just to give it a bit more stability?
Yeah, I mean, again, we've got a bit of a situation at the moment where I don't know that you've got too many other options other than that. I think.
What about McLean?
This is where I'm going to get into territory where you try and put me in a boxing match with James McLean, isn't it? I've never really fancied him in the midfield role. To be honest, I've always preferred him left wing back, but that's just me.
Yeah, cool. And Neil, any differences to that? Or
no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think Thomason is the one, a little bit of the unknown for me. So I'm hoping to see him get some starts, probably ahead of Dobson. To be honest with you,
if he's as good at football as he's talking, then we've got a proper player. If you've seen Thomason's interview, so good. I mean, with the greatest respect to you, Neil, and previous footballers, some can be quite dry when you interview them. It's very much, I'm here for the project. I can't wait to get going. Can't wait to meet the fans. End of story. But Thomason's was great. Such a captivating interview. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what he brings.
Cool. Sounds good. Right. I think that's it. Any other business? Just to say good luck to the new Wrexham women's coach, Jenny Sugarman, good former West Bromwich Albion boss, and I think she spent some time at Leicester as well. It seems a good appointment for a semi-pro team. Hopefully, she can take them forward a little bit. But I think that's it. Any other business?
Just a quick note to Mick Reed, who sadly passed away earlier this week. He was a steward at the racecourse for 50 years. That is some service. He was suffering with dementia, and I think there's a bleed on the brain. Obviously, that's just ended up proving to be his last battle, really. So just a big loss to everybody. And so our thoughts with Mick's family and friends. A couple of them I know. So yeah, it's been a week of mixed emotions, I think it's fair to say, on that note, in terms of suffering some significant losses and gaining all these new players. Kind of emotionally, you're all over the place. You've got all these wonderful new toys and offset by the sadness that everybody's been experiencing. But you know what? It's all set up. 2 weeks now. We're going to be sat here in 2 weeks either saying, that was a stunning welcome to the Championship, or we're all going to be saying, we're going up, lads, we're going up. So 13 days. Let's get it counted down.
Yeah, let's get it on. Let's get it on. Well, thanks very much, Neil, for joining us, and thanks. Yeah, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.
Cheers, Neil. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Wrexham is the name. Wrexham is